Good morning, y'all. Happy Sunday. Welcome to another What Else is Going On, aka We Go podcast episode. I'm your girl, your host, Taria. Oh, excuse me, y'all. Let's get into the Real Housewives of OC, the latest episode, Old Faces, New Places. Let me pull up my notes here. I thought I had them pulled up. All right, let's go. So first up, the episode starts out um, interstitials. Shannon doing her daughter, picking up her daughter from the airport, getting lost, going around, don't know where she is. You know, Shannon being Shannon. Jen's doing mountain climbers with her dog. Child, mountain climbers are like, ugh, but they're good. Gina's animals pissing and pooping, child, in the house. Lord Jesus. Emily, Tamara, and Gina go and get lymphatic massages. Have y'all ever got one? I try to do one on my stomach in the mornings to help with like digestive and stuff like that. But I want to see, and I do the GUA. How do you pronounce that? Gua? How do you, the stone, like for your face and down your neck and all that. But I would like a full body um, lymphatic massage. So have y'all ever had a lymphatic massage, number one? And have y'all ever used them things that they were sitting on? Because I want to try it. But so in her confessional, Emily says it's Orange County and everyone's obsessed with wellness activities. So why not try this one? Again, have y'all had it? Because I want to try it. They do compression and red light therapy. And Gina says, I honestly thought we'd be doing this at the Golden Door when they were with Shannon. And of course, it was a natural way to introduce the topic so they can get to gossiping about Golden Door, right? So I was like, all right, kudos to you, Gina, because it was a good segue, to make it look like y'all are just talking about it without gossiping about it. Gina says, Tamara, I see you're really trying with Shannon. You're not letting people activate you the way you were last year. This pisses me off when people use this sometimes. Sometimes it's true. When you know that people are constantly coming at you and poking and provoking you, yes, we know they're trying to get a reaction out of you. And people may say, well, we need to learn how to control our responses. I get all that. But there are times when people are literally activating you. And sometimes you got to give them what they're looking for. However, last season, to me, Shannon wasn't activating Tamara. Shannon came in. We all knew about this accident she had driving while drinking, all these other things, driving while drunk, all these other things. And Tamara decided to place herself in the middle of those things and then tried to mask it under the guise of concern. So no, you wasn't being activated by Shannon last year. That was the thing for you to do to create TV. It is what it is. But anyway, so they didn't like the fact that they felt like Shannon was defending Katie when they all were wanting Katie to be accountable for the actions that she did. In the meantime, Katie and Shannon meet up. So they go to this park. Shannon shows up in a hat, glasses. She says she had a facial thermos and Botox. So that's why she has on the hat. In her confessional, Shannon said, look, it ain't fun when things sag. So if a laser's going to snap it back in place, that's what we're going to do. She said, but she only did the neck up. She ain't doing nothing from the neck down because she's not in a relationship yet. So during this meetup, Shannon is letting Katie know, check this out. Your approach with the apology is wrong. It's always I'm sorry, but I didn't do this, but. And that can be off-putting to them. You got to apologize without the but. And ultimately, she's like, look, do you want a relationship with these women? If so, this is the way you need to move. And she's trying to give her pointers with how she should move with the ladies. Katie said, told Shannon, I appreciate you sticking up for me, and all of that. But she goes to say it again. And Shannon's like, there you go with that. But you need to remove the but. So she said for her, she also freezes up. She said when her and her ex-husband, when she would argue back and forth with him, she would freeze up and things would get worse. In her confessional, she said it's a trauma response that if someone is screaming at her, she freezes up, which is why she wasn't responding to the ladies. She says she knows she needs to speak up and open up. So Shannon tells her, look, they're worried that you're a calculated person. And Katie says, I wish I was calculated. I barely know how to play chess, let alone check. I barely know how to play checkers, let alone chess. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say something. People may disagree. I said it in my last recap. Katie is not no innocent lamb being let out to slaughter, and they're all taking their turn slicing her. Katie had no problem last year when she was coming after Heather and one of the other ladies to be with her. She had no problem. Now, yes, the subject matter is different. Katie talked about Heather lying about a paparazzi, and these people are talking or bringing their children and families into it. However, I don't see Katie as a little innocent little lamb. I'm gonna say it again. Anybody who can falsely call the police on somebody and say somebody wasn't letting them leave, and that man gets thrown on the ground, handcuffed, taken to jail, and have to spend money to prove his innocence, only to be found out that he was innocent and a judgment awarded against Katie. To me, you're capable of anything. If you lie like that, you're capable of anything. Now, I do empathize with her and her ex. Don't get me wrong. That no one should have to deal with any type of abuse from an ex, a friend, anybody. At the same time, in this instance, not with her ex, but in this instance, I don't think that Katie is the victim. We're back with Tamara and Emily. Tamara says she just wants Katie to have some accountability. She's trying to coddle the very same blogger that was after me. In her confessional, Tamara says that Katie is sweet and nice to your face, but doing stuff behind their back, except when she's not so sweet and nice. Can't remember if I said that or Tamara said that. Like, did I put that in my notes for me or did Tamara? Either way, it is funny because Tamara, it's like calling the pot, calling the kettle. But anyway, Tamara says Katie is guilty on every count. And then she asked them, were they going to Katie's hot pot party? So Emily's like, you need to go. I mean, Gina says you need to go and let her know that she's not going to get to you. Basically, show up because it's your job. Emily said, but can you imagine? I can't help but imagine and wonder about the things she's done behind our backs that we don't know. Boom. In comes Tamara, which when you find out more about production on these shows, it makes you kind of iffy and wonder, did they set it up? Did they talk before they went in so that somebody knew to create an in for Tamara to drop this bomb? You know, reality TV can make you so distrustful, right? Of reality, of their reality. So when Emily says that, we wonder about the things she's done behind her back. In comes Tamara with some info. She says, well, last year, Katie was filming Shannon at their gallery shoot. So the gallery shoot is when they're doing their title card shoot. I think that's what it's called, like with all the ladies. Shannon freaked out because Alexis was there at the same time as her. She came in screaming, and Katie was on the phone. She says Katie was on the phone with her husband, immediately hung up, didn't say anything, and started filming Shannon and showed it to Alexis. So in her confession, they cut to Jen's confessional where she says, we all knew Shannon was having a bad day. Then they cut to Katie's confessional and says, Shannon comes in, bags in one hand, phone in the other, hair all over the place, screaming into her phone because that's what she does all the time. We have heard this a lot about Shannon. Tamara said Katie was on the phone with her husband again. She hung up. She pressed record and showed it to Alexis. So Gina said, wait a minute. She showed it to Alexis. They were in an active lawsuit. So she showed that footage to somebody that could have taken it and harmed her legally with it. So then it is wild to see the flashback of Katie, Tamara, and Alexis talking. And Alexis saying, do I need to pull out footage? And Katie's like, what? And Tamara's like, she has footage. John has footage from his ring cam of Shannon acting, how Shannon was acting the night that she was arrested for drunk driving. And now here you are filming her, if this is true. Whew, Lord, Lord, Lord. So it's just crazy because like down the road, you end up filming her. Now, later on in the episode, we'll get into Katie saying it was a voice note. But either way, filming, recording her and not knowing, that's crazy. So then, of course, Tamara's like, I mean, and what is Shannon going to do with this? Is this like something I tell her? And Emily said no, because the actual content, meaning what Katie did, is going to get lost in the fact that you're telling the story. So I said Tamara knew that. That's why she threw it out there, because she knew somebody was going to pick it up, put it in their purse, and then plop it on the table at the right time for Shannon. Tamara says that Shannon, wait, what'd she say? I don't remember. I don't know what my notes say, but Gina said in her confessional that Shannon needs to know. Maybe it's not her responsibility to tell, but she brought Katie to the group. So she feels like Katie has done horrible things to everybody. So now she feels guilty. I'm like, Gina, do you really feel guilty, or is this a good reason for you to kind of walk? Because she kind of left Katie hanging out there by herself when Katie said, well, Gina told me to do X, Y, and Z. I don't know. It can get so convoluted. So now we're with Emily and Shane. Emily had been speaking to a therapist about Luke and, everything that's going on with him. Shane was out in the parking lot waiting for her. He picks her up and they get in the car and they're discussing what's going on with Luke. And Emily is really emotional about it. And I get it. As a mom, I get it because I think Emily is placing blame on herself. Like, if I had have paid attention more, would he have gotten help more? Would he not be regressing? And everything to Emily is that moment is defining for her. So if he can't get himself dressed one morning, to her, it's a defining moment. And she's thinking this may be potentially the rest of his life. If he doesn't eat today, it's a defining moment. This may be him for the rest of his life. She's thinking ahead. She's his mom. She's thinking about not just what's going on now, but his future, how the kids are treating him at school. Like, as a mom, she's taking that on. Shane has a different way of taking it on. I feel like Shane doesn't want to make everything a defining moment for Luke because they're still getting information, they're still learning. And I feel like he's thinking also, he doesn't want Luke to pick up on those feelings. What I like about this is that you can't have two Shanes and you can't have two Emilys. And I think that they are a balance of each other. I think that Shane could be an emotional support for Emily in the way that he deals with it. And I think Shane can give Emily perspective and Emily could give Shane perspective. They just really need to communicate it because I like that they both have different perspectives on it because at the end of the day, they both want the same result. I love the fact that Shane isn't downplaying it. Holly Robinson Pete has talked about when and for those of you that don't know, she was an actress. She was on Head of the Class. Was she on 21 Jump Street too? 21 Jump Street. I loved that show. But she talked about when they were finding out about her son having autism, her husband was kind of like, oh no, it could be this, that, like not really accepting it and pushing it off. And she had to deal with that until he eventually accepted it. With Shane is not like that. And I like the fact that Shane is like, look, we're still getting information. We're still dealing with it. Y'all, the top of my foot is itching. We're still learning information. We're dealing with it. So let's not say this is his like, oh, this one moment is defining the rest of his life. So I like the way that they can kind of balance each other. I just really hope that they hear each other. Next up, we start out at Jen and Ryan's with Katie and Matt. Look, I said it last year. I didn't dislike Ryan. I hope he didn't do the things they accused him of. The man's not in jail. That don't mean he didn't have some involvement in it. But at the end of the day, I feel like he hasn't done anything to Jen that would make me, if he's a criminal, then that's not good. I mean, that's just hands down, period. But we haven't like seen that. So I am going to say I like Ryan for right now. He seems to make her laugh, happy. Their kids seem good with it now based on the flashback from last week. So there's that. So Katie says last year Matt was hesitant to get to know Ryan because of all the FBI stuff. They flash back to Jen's party last year, when Matt was like, "Child, I've been hiding for 2 hours. I'm not beat for this. I'm not getting ready to associate with him." But they realize that Ryan is a nice guy and they have a good time with him. So they cheers to tacos, tequila, good friends. Jen lets Katie's husband know that when they were at the Golden Door, all the ladies were just coming at Katie. And he's like, who are these people to think they could sit in judgment of Katie? In the meantime, Tamara's in her bed. She's having construction going on. The doorbell rings. It's Heather. She shows up with champagne and onion rings. Tamara is in the middle of getting her kitchen renovated. She said they had an accident where the sink overflowed, so they're renovating. So they go up to her room and they're having the food and the champagne in her and Eddie's bed. So Heather lets Tamara know that, look, I hung out with Gretchen the other day and they do a flashback. It was the day before. And Heather said, we were laughing, talking about all the stuff that we used to do. And in her confessional, Heather says, me and Gretchen see each other socially a lot, and she thinks that she's a fun time. So Tamara said, does she have a nose? Because in all her social media posts, we know she Photoshop to the point of her nose being blurred. I thought that was funny. Heather's like, yeah, she got a nose. So she said, I'm telling you, she looks great. So Tamara says, well, that's Katie's new friend. So back at Ryan's, we see a house pull up. I mean, a house child. We see a car pull up. Out climbs Gretchen and Slade. So Gretchen says, it's been 11 years since I've been sitting in this chair, and it looks like I've been frozen in time. No plastic surgery, not even my boobs. Now, Gretchen, how you say her last name? Gretchen Kristine Rossi. Any woman or man, non-binary, has the right, and I support them in doing whatever they want to do to their body, to their face, to be healthy, happy, and feel good about themselves. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Gretchen is not counting maybe fillers, Botox, and all that as surgery, which some people can debate it is. I don't feel like fillers and Botox, I haven't had either one, but I don't feel like they're surgery. But I don't know. Y'all let me know. Child, but act like you ain't changed. Now, she has aged, which that's natural. I mean, she just looks slightly different. And I wonder if it's Botox or filler, something. Because to me, she's still pretty, but something looks like a little bit different. But you know what? Gretchen looks different, but the same. I'll just say that. That was funny though. I wish she had made a joke like me and my nose, because she knows what people are saying about her Photoshop, But anyway, let's move on because I support the right for everybody to do what they want to do to their body, child. So Jen said that she met Gretchen when she was going through a lot with Tamara. She slipped into Gretchen's DMs and said Tamara SOS, and Gretchen immediately called her. In her confessional, Gretchen said all the housewives reach out to her and ask her how to deal with Tamara. She tells them to run. And that's just that. I said, well, oops, okay. She said her and Slade never got married. I guess they're life partners. She said they're like Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. Now, I've seen some people online speculate that the reason they didn't get married is because Gretchen didn't want her income attached to Slade's child support. Maybe. So, who knows, right? They say that's why Mendeecees and Yandy didn't get officially married. They got married. They had a spiritual ceremony, but not officially, but who knows? And for those of you that don't know, Yandy and Mendeecees are from Love and Hip Hop, New York and then Atlanta. So Jen said they were coming at Katie and coming for their families. Now, in her confessional, Jen says she's frustrated because Katie is held to a different standard. It comes down to the fact that none of the girls are afraid of Katie, so they'll come for her, but they're afraid of Tamara, and so they won't come for Tamara. And my question is, why are the ladies afraid of Tamara? Is it because she knows their secrets and their real lives, or is it because they know that Tamara will spin lies about them that someone will believe? If that's the case, that is crazy to me. Like they're afraid of her, what, because she yells and screams, she ain't gonna put her hands on you. So it has to be, right? Because either she knows their true tea or because she gonna make up something. And they feel like the stuff that she makes up, even if it's not true, can be just as detrimental as if it were true. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Because this whole I'm afraid of her, and they all want a peaceful, calm Tamara. It's like, because Heather said that in the first episode. So we're back at Tamara's house. Heather tells Tamara it's time for you to move forward. And Tamara says it's time for you to move forward. And then Tamara flips it right on Jen and says Jen is the problem because she's latching on to people that don't like her and she's insecure. And then she tries to insinuate that Jen wants her life. She talked about how Jen moved near her, where she used to live. Jen went to see the same doctor. she did and went to the hair salon and had Tamara's old hair extensions put in. I'm gonna need Jen to address that. Has she addressed it online? Because I know this episode came out, what, Thursday? So I'm a little late getting it out. But what? By the way, just side note, since OC comes out on Thursdays, I think I'm gonna drop the podcast episodes, the audio and the YouTube. I'm gonna try to get those to you on either Saturday or Sunday. Because I don't want to wait all the way till Tuesday to drop it. And then I'll drop Miami's that comes out on Wednesday. I'll be dropping that on Fridays when we do, the regularly scheduled. But anyway, so she said that Jen is trying to look like her. Then she be her. Then she pulls up a photo of what Jen used to look like. And Heather says she's pretty. Oh, she was pretty. And Tamara's like, oh, come on, her lips look like hot dogs. And then she says, and she was heavier. Pulls up a photo of Jen heavier. Heather said, oh, she does look different, but good for her. I've seen people online saying Heather's nasty. Heather and Tamara having that conversation. To me, Heather said nothing nasty about Jen at all. She said good for her. Like, great, good for her. She said she was pretty before, and she said good for her. And this was funny. She actually shaded Tamara in her confessional. She says, I'm not sure why Jen would want to emulate Tamara. I mean, why Jen would want to basically be Tamara when there's far more interesting people to emulate. And then she's like, moi. You know what I mean? So I don't think Heather said anything nasty. So Heather said, well, Gretchen is going to hang out with Jen and Katie. And Tamara calls them the Three Stooges. So back at Jen and Ryan's house, Gretchen asked Jen, well, where do you stand with Tamara? Is there a way forward with her? Jen said she's seen too much, but she'll support Katie. If Katie wants to have some type of friendship with her, I'll support my friend in a healthy relationship with her. That's fine. So Gretchen said, child, I hope you have a different experience than I had because, yeah, it didn't work out for me. She said, I still get messages about stuff that she says about me on her podcast. So in her confessional, she talks about how Tamara is still on her podcast calling Slade a deadbeat dad, and how she reached out to Slade's ex, which is the mother of Slade's son, Grayson, who passed away from brain cancer. And they play a clip of Tamara talking about that. She reached out to the mom, and that the mom had to raise a GoFundMe to pay for the funeral. So back in her confessional, Gretchen said he's never been a deadbeat dad. So then she tells everybody at Ryan's house, at Jen and Ryan's house, that Heather told me have some grace on Tamara because she's going through a lot with Teddy and her battling cancer, and Teddy is her best friend. And so Gretchen said, where was that same grace for me when I lost two people important to me to cancer, which is her ex-fiance and then his son? There were people online saying that Gretchen was trying to weaponize the fiance's son dying as if they were close, and they weren't. We don't know these people's lives. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Either way, it's a loss, So we know we're getting ready to go to the hot pot, child. So Travis and Gina are at their house. Gina's putting on her nails. She said she's going to the hot pot, and she realizes she's not going to be able to keep her mouth shut. Katie has done things to really hurt her friends. Travis said, child, you just now realizing you can't keep your mouth shut. She said, I've learned a lot in a few years, i.e. I'm on this show and it's my job not to keep my mouth shut. Tamara's getting glam, and she tells her glam people that Gretchen is coming, and they're like, well, what are you going to do? She's like, I'm going to match her same energy. Gretchen and Jen are riding together and on their way to the hot pot, and Jen's basically like, this Tamara thing. Gretchen said, one of my favorite scriptures says, let the Lord fight your battles. You just be silent, and I got you. So that's what she going to do. That's what she said. Child, we get to the hot pot. So awkward. Emily arrives first, and she could have sat at the end next to Katie, but she slides down and says, I need to sit at the end because I go to the bathroom a lot. And then she said, I could have sat there, but well, and Katie said, well, nope, it's good because when everybody comes in, it'll be easier, which is good. So Emily won't have to get up every time. They can just slide in. Then they show the different ladies coming in. All the ladies are getting there. They start talking about Shannon's daughter. And, she's like, Sophie's home. She broke up with her boyfriend. And the ladies are like, oh, wow, what? So Shannon said he was like family. But then Sophie got a job in New York, basically living her best life. She said she never wanted to have regrets about not being single in New York. And they're like, that's good that she's focusing on her career. She's going to have fun. Heather does a cheers and thanks Katie for inviting them. And then they're like, who's missing? Gretchen and Jen walk in. Gretchen says, Hi, Tamara. And then Tamara says, hi, Gretchen. Let me reintroduce myself. Nice to meet you. They all laugh. Ha ha ha. In her confessional, Gretchen says that's Tamara's tactic. She does something funny, makes everybody laugh, and then she'll strike. I said, baby. So they all want to know what Gretchen's been up to. She says she's just being living her life with Slade, being a mom. So then Emily talks about how she met Gretchen at her 40th birthday party. In her confessional, she said that she met Gretchen at her 40th birthday party. She didn't know Tamara and Gretchen had beef, and her relationship suffered a little bit with Tamara. So she won't make that mistake again. You mean, so like as far as being friends with Gretchen, or if another person comes along that has an issue with Tamara? Because if you like Gretchen, but I think she felt like I'm on the show with this lady. So it's best for me to stay on her good side. Again, there goes the afraid of Tamara stuff. So I feel like she also knew there was a beef. But anyway, Gretchen, Katie, and Shannon go up to get. Katie goes to show Gretchen and Shannon where they have to get the food and then bring it back and put it in the broth to cook. So Emily's like, so how was it? Was it awkward? And Heather said, I think it's great. Say hello, get out of the way, move on. So back at the table, they're all back at the table. Katie thanks them all for coming and really appreciates them. She says there's a lot of things that happen that she's regretful for, and she wants to start fresh. Gina said, I appreciate that you have regret, because right now, pretty much everything you do, I'm questioning you on how you move. So then she brings up the thing with her and Tamara and the blogger. And Tamara said, oh, Katie came to my house and explained everything to me and owned up to it. They show a flashback. I knew it was true anyway. The blogger has come out and said it, but I believed it from the start. I know people are saying they're ganging up on Katie, and they're ganging up on Katie because she looks different from the cast, and they're ganging up on Katie. I think that Katie has done everything these people have said. Now, we can argue that with them all coming at her, it can feel like a gang up, but I think they're also allowed to address their issues. Many housewives have sat in Katie's shoes. Anyway, Katie was at Tamara's house. Katie said, I looked through my DMs so we're at Tamara's house, and Katie says, I looked through my DMs and I called her. I started laughing because it's like, we knew that. Katie said that the blogger was telling her that Tamara's threatening to sue me, and Katie told her, look, this isn't good. Take the post down now. Tamara thought that was coddling. Now, I do agree with Katie telling her, child is saying, like, if they made contact, her saying, hey, take that post down about Tamara. At the same time, you called her. Okay. Anyway, Gina says, it's upsetting to me that you don't remember an entire conversation that you had with someone that created a big problem. So Gina said to Shannon, and it upsets me that you were making it seem like we were ganging up on Katie. Look, we were all just trying to get to the bottom of it. So Shannon said, which of course I can see also. Again, do I think it was a gang up? No, but I also can see how it could appear that way, right? So Shannon said, look, if there's a single person sitting at the table and everybody's coming after that person, it can feel like that. And we got to remember Shannon has been in that spot. So of course she's going to have sympathy for Katie because she's been there, right? Like, yeah, I knew what it felt like when everybody was coming at me. So Gina, child, this was a good house. Well, the way Gina introduced the subject, it felt natural. Whether they planned it or not, it felt natural. Gina says, she's done things to all of us, including you. Tamara told me just last year, she recorded you at the gallery shoot and then sent the video to Alexis. Shannon said, wait, what? You could tell it really caught Shannon off guard. And I felt kind of bad because I knew, oh, Shannon ain't going to be able to just be like, so what's up, Katie? Like, it was going to be something. But the way it was introduced, I'm not going to lie, it was seamless, whether you like Gina or not. So in her confessional, Tamara says Katie and Alexis and her were coming back from a Mother's Day brunch. They happened to talk about Shannon being nasty to people. Happened to be. No. But, they together. They not filming. They talking about all this stuff. And Katie brought it up. She told me the whole story, and Alexis had already heard it. I left it there and never thought about it again until recently. Yes, until you needed to bring it out of your back pocket for somebody to introduce. So Katie said, I was on the phone with two of my business partners. You came in and you were screaming, and I recorded a voice note and sent it to Matt, basically saying, this is what's happening right now. Shannon said, Katie, you would speak to Alexis about me being upset when I was in active litigation with her fiance. And I'm sorry, that is a good point. In her confessional, Shannon says, are you effing kidding me? So Katie at the table says, listen, nobody listened to that recording except my husband. Emily said, well, then why would Alexis know about it? Katie says, we discussed it with Alexis, meeting her and Jen. Now, I'm not going to lie, unless Jen is a good actor, I do not believe, unless Jen is a good actor or has a truly bad memory, it seemed like she really didn't. I'm not going to say I don't believe she did. I'm going to say I believe she didn't remember. Jen says, I did. Gina said, well, she does forget. Because remember the whole con artist thing in the first episode? So Tamara says, Alexis said you played it for both of them, meaning Alexis and Kate and Jen. Jen says, I've never heard of this. I'm not joking. I've never heard of it. Gina says, but Jen, you knew about it. Jen says, I did not know. I didn't know about any of this. So Heather said, well, she just said you were there. In her confessional, Jen said, I don't know why Katie's doing this. It's not fair. I wish my friend would start answering for herself. So Gretchen says to Katie, well, what was your reason? Like, what was the reason? What was that reason? What was your reason for doing this? Katie said, I was talking to an investor and I was upset that I had to jump off a call. And I was telling Matt, this is what's going on. This is where it's confusing. Were you on the phone with an investor or were you on the phone with Matt, actually? Because remember, Tamara told the ladies that Katie was on the phone with Matt, hung up when Shannon came in screaming, didn't even say anything, and started recording. Katie is saying she was on the phone with investors. If Katie was on the phone with Matt, Shannon makes a good point. She said, you weren't calling Matt to say this is what's going on because you would then say, listen, and let him listen as it's happening. If I was on the phone with Corey and my roommate that I was sharing a room with came in hollering, screaming, I would be like, listen to this. And secretly have it like on speaker and be like, don't say nothing. Or just turn the phone away from my ear. I wouldn't hang up with him. At least I don't think that would be my first inclination, to hang up with him and record what's going on and send it to him when he could hear it in real time. Either way, even if she wasn't on the phone with Matt and she was on the phone with investors and had to hang up and then wanted to tell Matt about it, for me, I'm thinking for me, I would call Corey and be like, you will not believe this chick going off like this. For me. But who knows? I just don't feel like I would have recorded her. So my question is, why would she record her? But maybe she is telling the truth. Maybe only Matt heard the recording. Katie, in her confessional, said she was pissed because it was supposed to be a fun day for all of them, and instead they get to hear Shannon yelling. At the table, Katie apologizes to Shannon. So Gretchen asked Emily, how did you know? Emily said, Tamara told me. Gretchen said, oh my gosh. In her confessional, Gretchen said Tamara's always holding information to use it to her benefit. So she said, and that's what makes it feel shady. Now, remember, Emily did say when they were at the lymphatic massage thing with Gina and Tamara, you don't need to tell her because the message will get lost because you're the one bringing it. Gretchen just verified that for us. Like, it feels shady and not like genuine concern because like Tamara dropping that information feels not like concerning, but like shady. So Gretchen said, so when you talk to Alexis, why did it get brought up? This is what Gretchen is asking Tamara. Tamara said, well, obviously Alexis and Shannon don't get along. And so Alexis said, I heard she was freaking out at the green screen. So then Shannon gets up. But I thought that was a good question with Gretchen. Like, you were with Alexis. Why would it get brought up? And then Tamara was honest. Well, they don't get along. So, child, we was talking about her. Boom. And Alexis said, well, I heard X, Y, and Z. Heather got up. Shannon went up. Shannon got up. Heather went to go after her. Tamara then gets up. Girl, you know y'all ain't cool, but camera time, drama. That's why I think she got up. Because why is you getting up? So where are you going? So Shannon said, do you know how hard it is to know someone's videoing you and you don't even remember what you said? I also want Shannon to maybe wake up and maybe let's not be so explosive in your reactions all the time because this has been said a lot about Shannon. Remember the host of Love Hotel came online and talked about how Shannon was nasty, rude. Now, do I think he should have came out like that? Maybe not. But at the same time, I believe it to be true. Multiple people have said this about Shannon. So it might be time for Shannon to look in the mirror. Back at the table, Gina tells Katie, look, we're not trying to hurt you. So there's no need for you to try to hurt us, like trying to communicate with bloggers and all of that. Katie said, I did some effed up ish and I regret doing it. But you know what I miss the most? Talking and laughing and hanging out with you, Gina. And Gina said, well, thank you for that because that's why I'm trying to hold on to this with you because I genuinely liked you. Katie said, I regret a lot of things from last year. I thought it was a eat or be eaten situation. And now I look at it a lot different, which to me explains why she came in already gunning for somebody. Heather. Katie said, I'm sorry to the both of you, meaning Emily and Gina, that I hurt you both. She starts crying. Gina says, I believe you and thank you. Gina apologized and said, I'm sorry we never got to have this conversation because I said F Katie a lot. And Katie's like, it's okay. As they're right in the middle of this conversation, Shannon straight up comes in and interrupts because it's about Shannon. I was like, oh, I wanted to like hear more Gina and Katie because I felt like they were really getting somewhere. Shannon's like, I've reached my limit. I gotta go. I'm starting the process and I've gotta go. So Emily said, you think it's best to remove yourself? And she said, yeah. So she leaves. In her confessional, Shannon said, I gave Katie this gift of giving her advice on how to move forward with these ladies, and this is what she's done to me. It's pure evil. Betrayal. At the table, Jen said, I feel like we're holding Katie to the fire for things that she's done. Emily said, Jen, Katie has done things at this table that nobody has done. She gave information about my kids to a blogger. Katie said, I did not give information. Gretchen said, no, Tamara's done that to me too. So then Heather said, everyone at the table has done things that other people agree are not okay. So Tamara says it's time to move on. And then she said to Gretchen, I don't talk about you. Gretchen said, okay. So then Gretchen basically brings up, you do talk about me. You've been talking about me on your podcast. And so Tamara's like, well, what did I say? Gretchen's like, you've been talking about Slade being a deadbeat dad. She said, well, is he? Gretchen said, no, he not no deadbeat dad, Tamara. So she was like, okay. And she said, but so Tamara's justifying it like, well, that's not talking about you. But Gretchen feels like, this is my life partner. You are talking about him being a deadbeat dad. So Tamara says, you tried to contact my daughter. Gretchen says, no, I did not. Jen says she commented on a post. So Tamara screams, it's the same thing. Here is where I disagree. It's not the same thing. And this is what that whole twisting of words, when you can twist a situation and wording in a situation to make it seem much worse to people. So we know that Tamara and her daughter don't talk. So when you say Gretchen tried to contact my daughter, me, if it was my first time hearing her, I'd be like, wait, now that is kind of far. She commented on a post. Tamara's daughter put up a post about Tamara, about why she's not involved, why she doesn't have Tamara in her life. Gretchen commented on it. Tamara said that's her trying to reach out. And Tamara said, and my daughter didn't do that post. My ex did. Gretchen said, no, that ain't true because your daughter came out and said it was not her dad. It was her. And we did see that the daughter came out. Listen, Tamara has said that her ex poisoned her youngest against her. I can see, and I've seen it myself, where kids have been told things by the other parent or the other parent's family, and it may have the child confused. It's so unfair to do to a child. It may have the child confused or thinking one thing. I do think as a child gets older, they then can see that parent's behavior for themselves and make their own decision. And I think that may be what happened in Tamara's family. I don't know. I do wish her and her daughter nothing but the best. I wish them both peace in whatever that peace looks like. I hope they both can come at a place of peace. And maybe her daughter already is. I don't know. I do know that Tamara's daughter has asked her multiple times not to talk about her on the show. They were getting to a good place or getting to a place of moving forward. Tamara's daughter invites her to her graduation. She goes to the graduation. None of us knew about it. Online, on Twitter, Someone mentioned to Tamara, you don't even see your daughter. You don't have a relationship. You weren't even at the graduation. Tamara then posts the picture. After Tamara's daughter had asked her, please, Tamara's daughter allowed her to take pictures and said, but please don't post these. She posts them online because of the commenter saying, you don't have a relationship. So she wanted to prove to social media, I was at my daughter's graduation instead of honoring her daughter's wishes. And see, that's where I think the daughter's like, see, I'm seeing who you are for myself. But anyway, to try to put that on like Gretchen, like, oh, you've contacted her, that is not the same thing. In the meantime, Tamara did reach out to Slade's ex, the mother of his deceased son, Grayson. So there is just a lot of nastiness going on. In her confessional, Heather says the problem is Gretchen and Tamara are so both deep in this beef with each other, they can't see their parts in it. Side note, I think Heather's confessional looks really good. She looks good. I like the red dress on her. I like the red lip, the hair. Mama, to me, in my opinion, you did that. You look good. So Gretchen said that she had hoped, I'm sorry, Tamara said, I had hoped that we could move forward to Gretchen. Gretchen said, what makes you think we can just move forward? And that's Tamara's thing. Let's just move forward. You know, these housewives use that. And it's like, girl, what makes you think we just straight up moving forward? So Tamara says, okay, so then we don't have to. What's interesting to me is whenever that tactic from Tamara doesn't work, like, let's just move forward. Like, forget about all the horrible things I've done. Let's just move forward. And they either want to hold her to the fire or have a real discussion. It's like, oh, you don't want to? Okay, then don't. Gretchen is saying, no, I want you to tell me, why would you think? And that's a good question. Why do you think we can just move forward? So when Tamara's like, we don't have to, Jen's like, why is that your go-to? Why is it always just, we don't have to move forward? We don't have to move forward. So Tamara says, she's gone after me for 12 years. Gretchen said, I've gone after you. She said, yeah. Gretchen said, Tamara, you're the one with the track record. In her confessional, Gretchen said, it's the same old Tamara. So Heather's like, look, y'all two just need to talk. Gina said, yeah, it seems like there's a lot of hurt on both sides. Maybe y'all can actually have a conversation, talk about moving forward. Tamara says, look, you've been hurt. I've been hurt. I don't want to continue to go forward like this. Gretchen said, look, it's just about taking accountability. Tamara said, I agree on both sides. Gretchen said, I agree as well. I'm fine with that. But that's why I think that you and I need to talk because we have a disagreement basically about where things went left. Tamara says she agrees. They're going to go ahead and move on. In her confessional, Tamara says going to therapy, she's learned that she doesn't always have to be right. People can say whatever they want to say to her. It doesn't affect her life. Only she affects her life. I would like to throw in, but Tamara says things and puts things out that could possibly affect other people's lives. Like the things that she spews are not just about somebody's weight, somebody's look. Not that that's okay, but it's more about how's the FBI? This is happening. Slade is doing this or not doing this, even though rumors are out there. But she's always spewing out those types of things, having information in her back pocket, like about the Shannon thing. You know, those are the things. So, what y'all think? So Gretchen says in her confession, I don't think that Tamara's ever going to have true friendships until they can actually recognize until she can recognize what harm she's done to other people. And I feel like until I get that from her, I don't want to move on. So back at the table, Jen says, well, Katie, this was interesting. Katie, this was interesting. Thanks for having us. Heather says, Cha, I feel full. Of course, we go to Emily's shtick, Cha. Emily has put what she thought was a hard-boiled egg in her purse to eat it for later. She, of course, shows the ladies because it's a thing, just like eating a turkey sandwich in the sauna, putting a donut in her pocket when her and Gina met up with Katie, and now a hard-boiled egg in her purse. Y'all, I am sick. When I tell you, I'm over it. Can we please move on from this shtick? Come to find out, it wasn't a hard-boiled egg. It was a regular boiled egg, and it cracked. And then the episode ends. What did y'all think about the episode? Despite that, I don't have a problem with OC. I'm enjoying it. There's people on here that I don't necessarily care for, but I do think the cast as a whole works. And I am interested in seeing the rest of the season, how it progresses, how they move forward, all the different things, and go from there. Y'all let me know what y'all think about the Real Housewives of OC. You know, they have been kind of slumped for a couple years. Then they came back, baby, and they were good. What are y'all thinking about the season this far, even though we're only 2 episodes in? I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for supporting. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you follow the podcast wherever it is you listen to your podcast, type in what else is going on. Y'all, I'm about to be at my 300th episode. I had taken like 7 or 8 months off back in 2022. I would have probably been at almost 400, but I'm at almost at my 400th episode for this podcast. And I'm just really excited. I thank y'all so much for watching me on YouTube and following the podcast. Love y'all, and I'll talk to y'all later. Happy Sunday. See ya.